You just had a heart attack. The pain struck suddenly, sharp and unforgiving. You reached for the phone, but your limbs betrayed you, too weak to respond. Within moments, your breath grew shallow, slipping away like sand through your fingers. Though your age made it a likely end, it didn't soften the blow. The weight of unfulfilled dreams lingered in your chest, more suffocating than the heart attack itself. As the life drained from your body, your muscles stiffened, a coldness creeping over you, and then your final breath left you. But instead of fading into the dark, something strange happened. You felt an eerie lightness, as if you were rising. Looking down, you saw your still form lying on the floor, a hollow shell. Slowly, you ascended, drawn upward as if some unseen force were pulling you higher, away from the body that had once been you. What happened? I thought I was dead. The question echoed in your mind, but there was no fear, no panic, just an unsettling sense of confusion. You were dead, yet you felt more alive than ever, as though nothing had changed except for a peculiar lightness, a subtle dizziness, like the world was spinning around you. You looked down at yourself, or at least you tried to. What you saw was not quite a body, more like a shimmering, ethereal form, a swirling mass of energy. It was you, but in a way that felt foreign, otherworldly. Before you could make sense of it all, the door swung open. Your family entered, their voices laced with panic as they saw you lying motionless on the floor. It was your wife, your children. They screamed for help, dialing 911 in frantic haste. The paramedics arrived, but it was too late. They checked your pulse, then declared the inevitable. You were gone. The sound of their somber words cut through the air, and your heart, if you still had one, ached as you watched your wife and children dissolve into tears. You tried to reach out, to call out, to tell them you were still here, but no sound left your lips. You shouted inside your mind, a desperate plea, but it was like talking through a thick fog. "Hey, I'm still here," you cried, but it was as if you weren't even in the same world anymore. You reached toward them, but when your fingers brushed their forms, it was as though you were passing through smoke. You could see them, hear them, but there was no connection, no touch. It was like you were standing on one side of a veil, while they remained on the other. You knew the truth now. You were dead, but it didn't feel like it. You were still here, in the same space, in the same house, but no one could see you. No one could hear you. A strange comfort settled over you. At least you understood what had happened. But for many, the realization didn't come so easily. Some lingered in this world, not knowing they were gone, continuing to live as they once had, unaware that they had become mere shadows in the places they once called home. And that's when those places became haunted. A home filled with the echoes of lives that no longer were. You wanted so desperately to comfort your family, to somehow reach them and let them know you were still there. But as you watched the medics carry your lifeless body out of the house, a heavy resignation settled over you. You accepted your death. There was no changing it now. Still, the weight of unfulfilled desires, of dreams that would never be realized, lingered in the air. And just as you began to settle into this new, strange reality, a sudden thought flashed in your mind. The childhood house you had grown up in. Before you could even grasp the thought fully, you were there. One moment, you were standing in the empty room. The next, you were standing in the familiar doorway, breathing in the same air you had as a child. "Whoa," you whispered in awe, stunned by the superpower you had just discovered. The ability to move, not just through space, but through time itself. With a single thought, you could appear anywhere, past, present, or future. You could walk through memories as though they were doors to be opened. In a heartbeat, you found yourself standing in front of your younger self, watching him go about his day, unaware of your presence. Without thinking, you reached out, saving him from a childhood accident, one you knew would happen, but hadn't been able to prevent at the time. He never saw you. He never knew that you were there, that you had intervened to change the course of his life. You smiled at the thought, stunned by your new power. "Wow," you whispered, almost laughing at the sheer impossibility of it all. But then, a wave of bittersweet emotion washed over you. On one hand, you felt a lightness, a freedom you hadn't known in life. Death, you realized, was not a torment. It was a release. The pain, the worries, the limitations were gone, and for the first time, you felt truly free. On the other hand, a deep sadness gripped your heart. Your family. You had to let them go. You wanted to stay with them, to comfort them, to be with them just a little longer, but you knew it wasn't possible. Then, a sobering truth cut through your wonder. This wasn't the end of the journey. If you clung too tightly to your old life, to the attachments you had to your family, or your unfulfilled desires, you would remain tethered to the earth, bound by the very things you couldn't let go of. In that moment, you realized that if you couldn't release these attachments, you would become an earthbound spirit, a ghost, trapped between the worlds, unable to move forward. And though you didn't fully understand what lay ahead, you knew you couldn't stay here forever. As you continued to explore these strange, newfound abilities and began the quiet process of saying goodbye to the world you once knew, you were drawn to something else, a realm unlike anything you had ever imagined. It was a place of pure energy, where nothing physical existed, only vibrations, colors, and the soft hum of the universe. And in the center of this ethereal landscape, you saw it, a brilliant white light, radiating warmth and beauty, pulling you in like a magnet. You couldn't resist. The light was everything you ever thought you wanted, peaceful, inviting, like the embrace of a long-lost home. As you drifted closer, you realized that the source of this light wasn't just any light. It came from the moon. Its glow was mesmerizing, gentle, comforting. But as you focused, a flicker caught your attention. A second light, bright and fiery, coming from the sun. Both lights were beautiful in their own right, but you felt torn. Which one should I follow? You had read the stories, the near-death experiences where people described being drawn into a light, but never had you imagined facing this decision yourself. The moonlight called you with quiet allure, while the sunlight seemed to pulse with power and life. You were stuck, unsure of which path to choose. Then, in that moment of confusion, you paused. The rest of the world seemed to fall away, and you tuned into the subtle whispers of your inner voice. Your spirit guides, your higher self, they were all there, offering soft guidance, like a distant echo in your soul. Slowly, you turned away from the moonlight and shifted toward the sunlight, trusting the pull that felt more alive, more vibrant. It was the right choice. As you passed through the threshold, you were embraced by a radiant warmth, and you felt a deep, profound sense of peace wash over you. You had arrived in the astral realm. Here, angelic beings surrounded you, their forms radiant with love and light, their presence suffused with an energy that felt like home. You were greeted with warmth, with understanding, with unconditional love. It was everything your soul had longed for. But not everyone had such a smooth transition. For some souls, death didn't come with such peace. Those who met death with fear or violence might find themselves trapped in a world shaped by their last, most intense emotions. In the fourth dimension, the realm where the soul travels after leaving the body, thoughts become reality. If you died in agony, clinging to fear, your afterlife could mirror that despair, what many would describe as hell. For others, a cleansing process was required. Souls that held on to negative energies might pass through a kind of purgatory, where they would confront and purify themselves before they could move on. It was in this space that they would cleanse their vibrations, recalibrate their energy, until they were ready to ascend to a higher plane. But for you, your death had been peaceful, despite a few moments of sudden pain. You had let go in the end, surrendering to the flow. Because of that, you now found yourself surrounded by a love so pure, so overwhelming, that you knew this was where you were meant to be. As the angelic beings surrounded you with their radiant warmth, you felt an overwhelming sense of peace, like you had finally returned to where you belonged. Without a word, they led you gently to a magnificent healing chamber, its walls shimmering with an ethereal glow. The angel's voice, soft and melodic, filled the space as they spoke. Here, you can release all the pain, all the trauma that you've carried. In this sacred place, you will find healing and renewal. The air around you felt alive with soothing energy, calmness radiating from every corner. You felt your very essence start to lighten, as though the weight of your human burdens were dissolving in the atmosphere itself. In this realm, time no longer mattered. There was only peace, only a deep, abiding joy. And then, as if in a dream, the higher selves of your loved ones appeared before you, their forms glowing with unconditional love, their energy intertwined with yours. They stood there, not as the people you knew, but as their truest, purest selves, offering silent, comforting support, welcoming you home. But not all souls were greeted in the same way. The angel's expression grew somber as they continued, explaining that those who had taken their own lives were led down a different path in the astral realm. Souls who had endured traumatic death, like suicide, were taken to a secluded section of the plane, an area bathed in a blinding white light. This light wasn't just beautiful, it was healing. These souls would spend what felt like an eternity immersed in the white glow, a process that was meant to cleanse their spirits, to soothe the scars that remained from their earthly torment. Some souls, bound by the depth of their suffering, would remain in this chamber for decades, sometimes even 50 years, allowing the light to fully heal them and help them reconnect with their true essence. The thought of such healing, of this profound cosmic care, both awed and comforted you. It was a reminder that in this vast, infinite universe, no soul was ever truly lost. Each would eventually find their way back to peace, no matter how long it took. In this serene, otherworldly space, you were finally face to face with your higher self. But it wasn't just your higher self that greeted you. As you looked around, you saw the higher selves of everyone who had ever crossed your path. Your parents, your romantic partner, classmates, colleagues, even the stranger you briefly spoke to while passing by on the street, and the beggar you once walked past without a second thought. Even your pet, yes, your pet, had a higher self residing in the sixth density too. This place, you realized, was like a cosmic round table, where the higher selves of all the souls you had shared the previous life with gathered to review your journey, to assess the lessons you had learned and the ones still waiting for you in the next chapter of your existence. In the blink of an eye, your entire life unfolded before you, like a film projected onto the universe's screen. You saw it all, every moment, every heartbeat, every decision, playing out in perfect clarity. You relived your birth, the innocence of childhood, the joy of laughter with friends, the struggles of growing up. But it was the moments of pain and loss that struck you the hardest. You found yourself back at the moment of your dog's death, the first time you truly understood the weight of loss. Strangely, you didn't just witness the moment, you became your dog. You felt its pain, its fear, the final breath leaving its body as if it were your own. You were no longer the person who had loved it. You were the pet, feeling the agony of death from its perspective. You could become every role that had played a part in your life, experiencing the world through the eyes of each being you'd ever encountered. Then, the scene shifted to your teenage years. You were reliving the painful fight with your mother, the moment you rebelled, the words you threw at her, the hurt you caused as you stormed out of the house. But now, you didn't just see her sorrow from the outside. You became her. You felt the heartache, the fear of losing you, the helplessness of not being able to protect you. You experienced it all, from her perspective, the weight of a mother's love mixed with the agony of her child's pain. And it didn't stop there. Every person you had ever hurt, every enemy you had made, every ill word you had spoken, it all came rushing back. You became the ones you had harmed, the people you had dismissed, the faces you had ignored. You felt their hurt, their anger, their confusion. You understood, in that moment, how deeply your actions had affected others. You became the person you once hated and experienced their pain, the sting of betrayal, the weight of judgment, the bitterness of being misunderstood. You felt the sting of every harsh word you'd ever uttered, the sharp edge of every mistake you'd made. And then it hit you. You were everyone. You were the ones you had loved, the ones you had lost, the ones you had betrayed. You were the dog you had cherished, the lover you had turned away, the enemy you had cursed. All of them, every soul you had ever touched, had been reflections of you. You saw it now. The universe had woven your lives together so intricately, so beautifully, that all of it was one grand, unified tapestry of experience. You felt the sorrow of every person you had wronged, and with it, an overwhelming wave of compassion flooded your heart. You could feel their pain, their grief, their longing for a second chance. And in that instant, you understood. Next time, if given the chance, you would do it differently. You would choose love over anger, empathy over judgment. The pain of the past had shown you that each soul was a mirror of your own, and in the reflection of their suffering, you found the desire to heal, to do better, to love more deeply. You wished you could go back, make amends, undo the hurt you had caused. But here, in this sacred place, you realized that you could. In the next life, with each soul you encounter, you could choose differently. You could embody the love and kindness you now understood so fully. Tears welled up in your eyes as a wave of deep sympathy washed over you. You wept, not out of sadness, but out of the profound understanding that you were connected to every soul, every being you had ever encountered. How could I have hurt them? How could I have not understood sooner? The emotions felt overwhelming, but just as the weight of it all threatened to crush you, a soft, soothing voice filled your mind, comforting, loving, and infinitely patient. It's okay. There's no rush. You have infinite time. The voice was unmistakable. It was your higher self. You felt a gentle warmth in your heart as the words settled within you. So now you see, the voice continued. Every person, every animal, every being in your life exists to teach you something. They are different perspectives of yourself, reflections meant to help you grow. They made soul contracts with you, agreeing to appear at the right moments to help you learn, even those you might have hated in the past. Yes, I see. The communication was not through words, but through pure understanding, flooding your consciousness as if you had always known this truth deep inside. In your previous life, your higher self explained, you learned to respect others, but you struggled to learn forgiveness. That lesson will carry over into your next life. You will continue to face opportunities to forgive, to heal those wounds until you truly understand it. You nodded in quiet agreement, the weight of your past choices becoming clearer. And, your higher self went on, you have unbalanced karma with a friend in this life. You will make soul contracts with this soul in your next incarnation to help balance that energy. Your interactions will be part of the lesson, part of the healing. The thought of this stirred something inside you, a small whisper of fear. Am I being punished? You asked, the vulnerability raw. No, my child, the voice replied, filled with warmth and reassurance. This is not punishment. This is how the universe works. Everything must remain in balance. The soul chooses what it needs to learn, and sometimes that means revisiting unfinished lessons. But it's never about punishment. It's about growth. You felt a profound sense of relief wash over you, as if a weight had been lifted. You understood now. It wasn't a matter of judgment, but of healing. Everything, everyone, was a mirror meant to reflect a lesson, a chance to evolve. For the next few hours, you witnessed the creation of your soul contracts for the life to come. You were no longer bound by the limits of time or space, and you watched as your higher self collaborated with the higher selves of all the beings who would play a part in your next incarnation. Souls who would be your parents, your siblings. They were all chosen based on the vibration you carried. You would be born into a family whose vibration matched yours, because that's how this cosmic process worked. As you sat there in the heart of this divine council, you also chose your lessons for the upcoming life. What will you learn? You were asked. What do you wish to experience? You thought for a moment. Inner peace, forgiveness, the ability to truly see others and accept them, deepening self-awareness, the ability to love unconditionally. There were many lessons you could choose, and some would carry over into the next life if you didn't quite complete them. Could you handle it all in one lifetime? Some lessons would be easier, others more difficult. But the soul always had the freedom to choose, to grow, and to continue evolving. Even if some lessons took multiple lifetimes to fully understand, it was all part of the process. And as the soul contracts were finalized, you felt the peace of knowing that everything was unfolding exactly as it should, with love, balance, and infinite possibilities ahead. It's all set, child. You're good to go. Your higher self's voice rang with quiet reassurance, like the sound of a deep, comforting bell. You felt the weight of your journey ahead, but also a flicker of curiosity. Then where should I go? You asked, your mind swirling with questions about the unknown. Well, the voice replied, the time for you to begin the lessons of your next life hasn't arrived yet. There are a few souls still finishing their journeys before yours can begin. You paused, processing this. So, what now? What do I do while I wait? Ah, your higher self chuckled softly. You can spend your time in the astral plane, a place of great learning and healing. There are many ways to use your time here. You can rest and heal, of course, or explore the many classes and teachings available. You could teach too, if you wish. There are plenty of souls who need guidance. The idea of learning and teaching in such an expansive realm felt thrilling. What kind of classes? You asked, eager to know more. Spiritual lessons of all kinds, the voice explained. You can delve into healing techniques, energy work, or higher wisdom. There are teachings on the nature of the universe, the soul, and the interconnectedness of all things. The astral plane is rich with opportunities for growth. There are even activities that allow you to connect with other souls who are on similar paths. You felt a spark of excitement rise within you. This place was a living, breathing classroom, filled with endless possibilities. So, I can explore, learn, grow, and help others? Exactly, your higher self affirmed. Take this time to explore, to deepen your understanding. There's no rush. But remember, once you are born into your next life, you will pass through the veil of forgetfulness. All of this, your past lives, your journey here, will be hidden from you. You felt a pang of sadness at the thought of losing the wisdom and connection you now felt. But your higher self's calm presence soothed the unease. Don't worry, the voice continued, filled with warmth. We will always be with you, watching over your journey. We guide you, protect you, and help you grow, even when you cannot see us. There was a sense of peace in those words. You were never truly alone, no matter where you went or what you faced. You stepped out of the healing chamber, and as you did, a wave of pure, untainted serenity washed over you. The spiritual realm stretched out before you, a boundless expanse where the very air shimmered with vibrant energy. Here, you quickly realized everything was born from thought. With a mere flicker of your mind, the landscape could change, morphing into whatever your heart desired. Mountains, rivers, endless skies, or fields of flowers glowing with ethereal light. The possibilities were as infinite as your imagination. This place was not just beautiful. It was alive with love and joy, a harmony so profound that it felt like home in a way you had never known. You felt no separation here, no boundaries. Every part of you resonated with the pulse of this realm, and it felt as if you were reconnecting with a long-lost part of your soul. You wandered freely, exploring its boundless beauty. You called upon the healing energy that surrounded you, calibrating the vibration of your soul to a higher frequency with each step. You sought knowledge, attending spiritual lessons that expanded your understanding of the universe and deepened your connection to the cosmos. You met and conversed with other soul families, beings who shared similar journeys, exchanging wisdom, experiences, and joy. While you waited for your next incarnation to begin, you found comfort and fulfillment in this place of learning, healing, and connection. Time felt irrelevant here, as if it stretched and folded like the very fabric of existence itself. In this moment, there was no urgency, only peace, and the knowing that you were exactly where you needed to be.